Good evening. You're sure a very disciplined crowd. You pay much more attention than the officers do when I usually walk into our rooms. My name is David Moore. I'm the police chief here in Janesville, and I'd like to welcome you two to our 2023 awards ceremony. But before we get started here, we have some distinguished guests that have joined us here today. If you'd stand when I mention your name, we have Deputy City Manager McHugh with us. And please hold your applause. We'll catch them all at the end. Stand up. He's an Irishman, so he's anxious to get down to O'Reilly's here pretty quick. We have Councilmember Doug Markline, Councilmember Paul Williams, Chaplains Jack Fish, Chaplain Tim Hartley, and Fire Chief Jim Ponkauskas. And we have some retirees with us here today. Deputy Chief Jimmy Holford. Stand up, Jimmy. Officer Len Lacher. And Officer Rick Mussey. Rick, if you could stand up. And how about a round of applause for all of these folks? So tonight is a night of reflection of our duties and offer appreciation of our employees and citizens. It's an opportunity to honor a few of the many dedicated employees of the Janesville Police Department and members of our community. Think about the policing profession for a few moments. We take young men and women, oftentimes fresh out of college. We send them to the police academy. We then bring them back to the police department and have some field training. And then we send them out into our communities and we ask them to solve the most difficult problems that our communities have to offer. The most difficult circumstances that occur in our communities, these young officers go out in the middle of the night, all by themselves. And when they arrive on that scene, oftentimes that officer knows less than anybody else that is on that scene. Yet everybody there looks to that officer to make an immediate decision with 100% accuracy. No mistakes. And the good news story to all of this is time and time again our officers deliver. And it's because we hire the best officers. We provide them the best training, the best supervision, the best equipment, and give them that opportunity to be successful out in the field. The employees you'll meet tonight deliver that level of perfection. This evening, the department will also honor citizens and businesses that have supported the police department and the community. A long time ago, police departments learned we can't go it alone, that we need our community partners to truly allow our communities to be safe. Every year, officers of the Janesville Police Department respond to tens of thousands of calls for service, traffic stops, citizen contacts, and other duties. Frequently, citizens of our community assist the officers with their responsibility in a variety of ways. This year, 4 citizens were selected for the Citizens Award and 4 businesses were selected for the Business Awards that further and support the mission of the police department and consequently serve our community. In the next few minutes, you're going to hear about heroics, assistance for our victims, concern for our community, and compassion. These examples are the type of dedication and duty we see out of our staff every day, every month, all year long. Now we're going to have some of the officers come up that recommended these acknowledgments from the awards committee, and they will present the awards. But first I'll introduce Deputy Chief Chad Pearson, and he can explain the various awards.
This is what happens when you go after a guy that's much shorter than you are. Good evening, and thank you all for coming. I'm Deputy Chief Chad Pearson. What I'm going to go over is just an explanation of how we get to the point of issuing out or offering up these awards. They're not spontaneous, and we don't just make them up. There's actually a true process to it. The Award Commendation Committee is comprised of 7 selected members. There is an assigned administrative officer of the committee and 6 members assigned for 3-year terms. The current committee consists of myself as the chair, Lieutenant Mike Blazer, Sergeant Steve Carpenter, Officer Carl Mickelson, Officer Brad Rao, Detective Aaron Johnson, and Records Clerk Jane Burr. So how does this work? Through the years, submissions for commendations are made. The committee will review all the commendations and will determine by majority vote what, if any, type of commendation will be recommended to the chief. The recommendation to the chief is done in writing, which contains a summary of the nominee's actions. This is truly a process and not done by random selection or taken lightly. These awards handed out today are held in high regard, and those receiving them truly have earned honorable recognition. The list of awards being handed out today are as follows: the Citizen Law Enforcement Award, Business Law Enforcement Award, Problem-Oriented Policing Award, Exemplary Service Citation, Meritorious Service Citation, Distinguished Service Citation, Civilian Employee of the Year, the Award of Excellence, and Police Officer of the Year. Before presenting the awards, I will provide a description and the factors that define eligibility to receive the award. Without further ado, we'll move on to the first awards. The first awards that we'll be presenting today are the Citizen Law Enforcement Service Award. This award is given to a citizen whose actions were beyond what is normally expected of a citizen. Factors considered include: 1, the assistance was given without regard to personal welfare. 2, the assistance had a direct and positive bearing on the outcome of the incident and contributed to the furtherance of law enforcement. And 3, the citizen's actions were responsible and intelligent. The first Citizen Law Enforcement Service Award today will be presented by Sergeant Drew Severson, and the recipient will be Beloit Township Officer, who was off duty at the time, Chad Navarre.
Come on, Chad. So on December 13th, 2022 at 5:51 p.m., at the time, off-duty Officer Chad Navarre was off-duty shopping at Walmart in Janesville. He observed a male putting several expensive vacuum cleaners into a cart. Officer Navarre found this suspicious, as the male was not looking at prices or packaging like a typical customer purchasing such expensive items. He followed the male as he walked out of the store. He made no attempt to pay for the items. Officer Navarre took pictures of the suspect and license plates on his vehicle as he drove away. Just due to calls for service, we were busy that night, so we responded a little late to the call. We were unable to locate the suspect. The vehicle and the information that was provided by Officer Navarre aided Janesville officers in being able to identify the suspect. This in turn led officers to an address where the suspect frequented. Officers located the suspect walking in the area. He fled on foot, and a foot chase ensued. He was apprehended and arrested on felony retail theft charges. He also had multiple warrants for his arrest in Wisconsin and Illinois. Because of Officer Navarre's dedication to police service and work ethic, even off-duty, he was able to provide Janesville officers with invaluable information, leading to the apprehension and felony arrest. Thank you, Chad.
The second Citizen Law Enforcement Service Award that will be presented today will be done by myself, and the recipient will be Shelby Farberg. If you could please come up, Shelby. Tonight, we recognize Shelby Farberg with a Citizen Law Enforcement Commendation. The compassion and care she provided on April 11, 2022 will never be forgotten by the Janesville Police Department and the family of retired Detective Dale Studica. Detective Dale Studica was a 31-year veteran of the Janesville Police Department who retired in December of 2021. On April 11, 2022, just over 3 months after retirement, Detective Studica experienced an unexpected life-threatening medical condition. Shelby was the charge nurse working in the Mercy Hospital emergency room that day. Paramedics and doctors did all they could to save Detective Studica, but he sadly succumbed to his condition. Oftentimes, doctors and nurses and officers work together as a team. This teamwork inevitably creates friendships and connections. From the time Detective Studica was brought in the hospital, Shelby recognized the severity of the matter and the concerns the family and our officers were experiencing. Shelby rose to the occasion, even though it was obvious Detective Studica's death impacted her as well. She was seen becoming emotional, but set her own emotions aside for everyone else. She made sure Detective Studica's family was provided accommodations to grieve, and officers were taken care of as well. She kept a personal check on all of us and displayed high levels of compassion. Shelby did not stop there. She wanted to make sure to honor Detective Studica. She retrieved an American flag. She made sure to have Detective Studica draped with the flag. She had hallways in Mercy Hospital restricted off. She notified other Mercy Hospital staff of Detective Studica's death, and several members of the hospital staff lined the hallways as Detective Studica was processed from the emergency room. The beauty of Shelby is this: she cares about others and sets aside her own emotions all of the time. This is just one example of many that she does. She's a great nurse and a wonderful person. I have talked to several others who have worked with Shelby. Everyone uses the same adjectives to describe her: compassionate, caring, friendly, and the best one, awesome. On behalf of the Janesville Police Department, Shelby, I would like to express the highest level of gratitude for all you do. Thank you very much, and congratulations. All right, I'm not sure how I made it through that one, so give me a second.
I don't know I did either.
That one was tough. There are 2 other Citizen Law Enforcement Service Awards that will be issued out tonight. However, we're going to go a little off script here. These 2 gentlemen, that would be Stanley Goldstein and Andrew Jensen, were present and made heroic decisions with a recipient of our Distinguished Service Citation, Officer Nicholas Sargent. We'll be holding off on the presentation of their awards to have them come with Officer Sargent so they can all 3 of them be recognized at the same time. The next awards we'll be moving on to are the Business Law Enforcement Service Award. This award is given to a business that goes above and beyond what is expected of any business in their commitment and the dedication to the city of Janesville, the Janesville Police Department, and the law enforcement community as a whole. The first Business Law Enforcement Service Award presented today will be done by Sergeant Benji Thompson. The recipient will be Retirement Plan Advisors Dan Dodd and Angel Tuller.
Good evening. In the fall of 2022, the Janesville Police Department hosted a 2-day in-service, which included a 2-hour financial fitness block. Over the course of 9 days, Dan Dodd and Angel Tuller from Retirement Plan Advisors volunteered their time to lead our staff in a financial fitness overview and subsequent discussion. Dan and Angel discussed the finer points of the Wisconsin retirement system, Social Security, deferred compensation, funding retirement health care, and Medicare. and how to maximize one's benefits in each category. Dan and Angel's presentation was well received and provided valuable information to employees of all stages in their careers to successfully prepare them for eventual retirement. The commitment and dedication of Dan, Angel, and retirement plan advisors to the employees of the Janesville Police Department went above and beyond what is expected of any business in the city of Janesville. I am honored to present retirement plan advisors with the Law Enforcement Business Award. Congratulations.
Tonight's second Business Law Enforcement Service Award will be presented by Lieutenant Mike Blazer, and the recipient will be Building a Safer Evansville Base.
Good evening, everyone. So one of my favorite things to do is make Chad nervous, so I bring my own script here so I can go a little off color here. And he gets all kinds of weird about it. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. COVID really did some things for our community that made things really difficult, right? We've seen depression increase, not just in Janesville, but across the country. We've seen opioid use increase across the country, and Janesville's not immune to it. One of the other interesting things is I've been to several meetings with Erin Howell, and tonight's the first time I've actually met her in person. So thank goodness for Microsoft Teams and Google Meet and all those other things. So Erin Howell and Maggie Kasicki from Building a Safer Evansville are extremely dedicated to community safety. Erin has been involved with organizations like Vivint Health, BASE, and now working for Addiction Medical Solutions. See, this is why Chad wants me to stay on script. Working for Addiction Medical Solutions. So she is extremely passionate about substance use disorders, and I reached out to some of her colleagues to just try to get a little more background, and I heard the same thing over and over, that Erin will subordinate her personal needs, her personal experiences, and she will go out middle of the night, middle of the day to help people who need assistance with substance abuse and use disorders. Over the past year, the reason they're getting the award tonight is Erin, through BASE, donated a supply of Narcan to our officers, which provides life-saving tools on the street for people who have been exposed to fentanyl or heroin and experienced an overdose. Some of the other things that Erin and Maggie are involved in are the Overdose Fatality Review Committee, the Substance Misuse Task Force. All of these duties are above and beyond what they do for BASE and provide a safer community, especially for people who have those substance use disorders. And they really bring a great awareness to breaking down stigma and allowing people to get that treatment and help they need. So Erin, Maggie, thank you for all you do. We couldn't do it without you.
All right, continuing on. The next Business Law Enforcement Service Award will be presented by Sergeant Drew Severson. The recipient will be Velocity Multisport and Cycling, Scott Wendt.
They only said his name.
All right, on behalf of the Janesville Police Department, we would like to recognize Velocity Multisport and Cycling for their partnership with the Janesville Police Department. Scott Wenty and his business continue to assist the Janesville Police Department Bike Unit with free labor and tune-ups to our fleet of patrol bikes and e-bikes. The bikes are used in day-to-day patrol operations and major events in the city of Janesville. This provides our officers a different method of patrol during the warmer months, It is citizens working together with the police department that make Janesville a better community. Thank you for your continued support. And I just want to say that we just took our bikes up there a couple days ago, and they're already back. So they continue to keep the program thriving, and I think we're going to grow it with their help here in the next few years. So we'll see more bike officers out and about, especially at our major events. So thank you for all you do.
The next Business Law Enforcement Service Award will be issued out today by presenter Sergeant Glenn Hageman, and the recipient will be Victos, Justin Fox, and the Fox family.
So I too am kind of like Lieutenant Blazer. I'm going to go a little off script and ad lib a little bit here, and made Chad really nervous today when he kept asking me if I wanted to put a page in the binder here, and I kept saying no, I don't. So I want to take you back a little bit in history because the Fox family, Grand's here as well. I had him come in and do this. I'm not only presenting this on behalf of the police department, but I'm also presenting this more specifically on behalf of the K-9 unit. Since 2007, when the K-9 unit first began, the Fox family has been with us every step of the way. It started in 2007 when Justin's dad, Jeff Fox, who's no longer with us, gave a donation to the K-9 unit, which allowed us to purchase K-9 Carl, which I was the benefit handler for 8 years with Carl until 2015. In 2015, he retired. The Fox family once again stepped up, gave a donation, which just allowed us to purchase K-9 Fred, and who was handled by Drew Severson, who is back here now, until 2022 when, unfortunately, Fred succumbed to his battle with cancer. Moving forward now into the future, once again, Justin and his family have given us a donation, which allowed us to purchase a third K-9. Unfortunately, it's not K-9 Grand and Jason back there. It's Officer Kinsella and K-9 Victos, which are currently, for the last 6 weeks, in sunny Daytona Beach, Florida, finishing up their training. So they're going to be finished up Friday, and we'll be coming back. So that's kind of the history of the K-9 program and the history of the Fox family being with us every step of the way. So personally, I'd like to say thank you, Justin. Thank you to your family for supporting the K-9 program, the continued supporting the K-9 program, and you're like the K-9 unit family with us as well. So thank you very much for all you've done with us. And also, I forgot to mention with Justin is his mother, Sharice. So, yep.
You didn't have to do that.
All right, moving forward. I don't have a K-9 to make any noise in the background, so I'm not very good at making animal noises, so I guess we're going to have to move forward into the program onto the next award. The next award will be the Problem-Oriented Policing Award. This award is given to any employee for their involvement in an innovative and effective problem-oriented policing project. The project should have achieved measurable success in resolving specific disorders or public safety problems faced by the police department and the community. The first Problem-Oriented Policing Award will be presented by Officer Carmen Roche, who I have been watching is dancing her leg back and forth and appears kind of nervous. And not that I said that to embarrass you at all, Carmen. I did. I was just helping you along. The recipient will be Officer Drew Mussey.
Good evening, everyone. Officer Drew Mussey has earned the Problem-Oriented Policing Award. Addressing problems in our community goes beyond the call for service and the immediate response. Identifying continuous problems in specific areas leads to dealing with specific conditions or what may be creating problems in a neighborhood of our community. Officer Mosley is a member of the Chronic Nuisance Team. The goal of the Chronic Nuisance Team is to educate property owners, prevent future problems, work with the impacted community, and create safer neighborhoods by identifying and resolving nuisance premises. Officer Mosley's efforts as part of the Chronic Nuisance Team had the greatest impact on the 2022 results. In 2022, the active premises decreased by 68%, and the completed premises increased by 43%. His hard work and dedication led to success in the police department. Led to success in resolving a specific disorder or public safety problems faced by the police department and the community. He educated all the officers, leading to proactively solving problems in our community. Officer Mosley has also recruited and trained officers to join the team. He has been an incredible and highly valued addition to the team. Officer Mosley fulfills his chronic nuisance duties diligently. In 2022, after seeing positive results from a project Officer Mosley created, he expanded it by coaching and mentoring junior officers on how to run it and successfully implement it. During this project, he identified a problem with a large group of juveniles. He tracked all the juvenile involvements and collaborated with all the agencies, city departments, and county resources to assist the juveniles and their families. He also provided updates to patrol shift on the directions of the cases. Officer Mosley attended a day camp with the youth to develop information and resolve problems in the community. In addition, Officer Mosley is a bike officer with the Janesville Police Department. This has allowed him to build positive relationships with the community. Building a relationship of trust is key to the execution of successful problem-oriented policing projects. Police departments across the country can create problem-oriented policing projects. However, only those departments that have been able to build and sustain positive relationships with the community will have consistent positive results. Officer Mosley serves with pride, honor, courage, and respect. He enhances the quality of life in the city of Janesville by working with the community and citizens to enforce the law, preserve the peace, reduce the fear of crime, and provides a safe environment. Officer Drew Mosley excels as an officer overall. With great attitude and effort, he goes above and beyond the call of duty. Thank you.
This year, we have 2 problem-oriented policing awards that will be issued out. The second problem-oriented policing award will be presented by Lieutenant Mike Blazer. And no, I do not have his script in here, and it's making me nervous. The recipient will be Officer Brian Neighbor, and having him up here makes me nervous as well. I can make these comments. We got hired together.
I think this one might be the most fun I'll have tonight up here. So before I read the citation, I'll just let you know that all 4 supervisors on day shift collaborated, and through Sergeant Carpenter's guidance, we decided that we should submit him for the Problem-Oriented Policing Award. But something you may not get from the citation is what Brian Neighbor is really like. And I noticed a few officers starting to cringe. So Brian Neighbor looks very stoic and very quiet most of the time, but he's the guy just before you hit the street that will steal your coffee cup, hide it somewhere so you have to search for it, maybe send the former deputy chief a consultation for an electric scooter upon retirement, things like that. What makes that interesting is Brian does these things, and you get the sense that, again, he's so stoic that there's not this dedication that he has. And the chief spoke earlier about how many young officers we have and what we ask them to do on the street after they come back from the academy. Brian's a 25-year veteran with us. He worked at the Sheriff's Department before that. And Brian's experience knowledge and dedication to the police department is not something you can teach in the police academy. It's something that's learned. It's something that's to some degree given because Brian has that nature. So I'll read the citation. For the last several years, Officer Neighbor has recognized issues surrounding the downtown area. Community members, city officials have brought forward several concerns regarding the homeless population and antisocial behavior. Officer Neighbor continued to work on issues in his assigned patrol area, which is downtown, and took actions to resolve these problems. Officer Neighbor took it upon himself to contact all members of our homeless population. He built rapport with them and began to gain voluntary compliance. Officer Neighbor spent over 9 months of the calendar year for 22 working with partners within the community to encourage the accessibility of assistance during those times. Officer Neighbor was able to assist several citizens during the hardships to get them a more stable living situation. He relied upon his experience and veteran officers around him to handle each person with dignity and respect, even though the ultimate goal was to help reduce the frequency that we were down there and improve proactive enforcement when necessary. Throughout this time, Officer Neighbor coordinated several community meetings. He facilitated efforts with code enforcement, ECHO, and gifts. He made several referrals to the city attorney's office to defer charges in exchange for compliance. Officer Neighbor worked tirelessly and without waiver. He was able to make a direct impact on the downtown area and the antisocial behavior and make it a safer area for everybody, where we have events like Music at the Marv, the Farmers Market, and so many other things that people want to be in the downtown for. Brian, your experience and dedication is well appreciated, and we appreciate having you on day shift. Thank you.
Good job, buddy. Good. All right, the next set of awards that we'll be handing out is the Exemplary Service Citation. This award is given to any officer who performs an act of service which exemplifies the highest standards of the police profession and is beyond the normal expectation of duty. The award will consist of a plaque and a solid blue-colored merit bar to be worn on the uniform. Appropriate acts, actions, or services include performance which demonstrates superior intelligence or effort which results in an important apprehension or solution to a crime. Performance or service which contributes significantly to the improvement of the department. Performance or service on or off duty which is deemed to be an important contribution to the community and enhance the image of the department. An accumulation of letters of commendation. The first exemplary service citation today will be issued out by Lieutenant Mike Blazer, and the recipient will be School Resource Officer Craig Clements.
And I promise this is the last time I'll get up here. You'll get to hear from somebody else here shortly. So Craig was my first FTO, and I've presented him awards in the past, and this one comes as a bittersweet award for me. Craig was part of our CIT development team all the way back in 2015. Notable fact that the CIT training group and team is going to be recognized at the state level later this summer, and a lot of that comes from the efforts that Craig has made over the years, getting officers trained and working with the community. Him leaving the CIT team was the bittersweet part. He wanted to focus on his efforts at the school for his last year as he approaches retirement. So it was hard to see him leave, but we know his commitment to CIT will never change. So the citation says in May of 2015, JPD began the development and implementation of the crisis intervention team. Craig Clements quickly volunteered for this team and eagerly expressed his interest in the program. He was very enthusiastic and ensured the success of this program for years to come. Officer Clements was integral in the initial research and development phase of the program. We spent countless weeks researching what other programs did and learning how to be successful in this field. He went to police departments around the state to gather the information, and he helped draft the original mission statement for the Janesville Police Department Crisis Intervention Team. He worked closely with all members of the team to develop an effective process at engaging with people affected by mental illness. In 2016, he volunteered as a co-facilitator for crisis intervention at JPD. This required him to work very closely with NAMI to help organize and deliver CIT training to all law enforcement in Rock County. He took another step and volunteered to assist with the board of directors for NAMI. His commitment to NAMI over the years has helped during their initial implementation here in Rock County. And just a notable fact, Rock County NAMI is now mentoring other counties going forward. Again, based on some of the stuff Craig did very early on. In 2017, he was part of an effort to develop something we call the mental health flag. It is seen in our records management system. Once the flag was implemented, he assisted with providing training to the entire county and doing listening sessions for the public and mental health organizations. In 2017, he volunteered to be part of the evidence-based decision-making. We were one of 6 counties statewide to be under that initiative. His efforts on this multidisciplinary committee helped provide a better service to those affected by mental health-related issues. Officer Clements committed to the CIT effort for more than 7.5 years, committed to EBDM for an equal amount of time, and has committed himself to the Janesville Police Department. And I can tell you, as recognized and well as our CIT program is going, without Craig's initiative when this started, we wouldn't be where we're at. Craig being one of my first FTOs, here we are 25 years later, and he's still helping teach me and guide me through my career. Thanks, Craig.
Yeah. The next exemplary service citation will be presented by Sergeant Steve Carpenter. The recipient will be Officer Josh Johnson.
So it might surprise a few in the room, but I'm not going to change anything tonight. And I'm going to continue the momentum of not providing my speech beforehand. So he's already a little unsure. I'm honored to present this award tonight and introduce you to Officer Josh Johnson. Who Josh is. He's a husband. He's a father. He's a godfather to my 2 girls. He was the best man at my wedding. He's a true friend for the last 18 years. This past December, Josh was sent along with the Janesville Fire Department to a residential fire. The initial information was that the residence was occupied by a female trapped inside. Just prior to arriving, information was learned that a second female was also inside the residence. Once on scene, Josh recognized that the fire crew had limited resources available. With 2 of the 3 firefighters entering the structure, it left 1 firefighter to begin setting up equipment. Josh quickly transitioned to the role of a firefighter by helping lay out fire hose, charging the line, and begin applying water to the flames. These actions had a direct impact on the safety of the firefighters entering the structure. Sadly, the 2 occupants succumbed to their injuries sustained in the fire. Josh's actions were recognized and complimented by the fire department. Your selfless actions demonstrate your dedication to the safety of the community and other first responders on scene. Your quick thinking and actions are deeply appreciated and respected by the police department and the Janesville community. I hope that experience hasn't caused you to reconsider your continued service as a police officer. Congratulations, and thank you again.
You know, this intentional act of not putting their script in here comes with jokes. And I was promised there was going to be a poem about Josh, and I'm a little disappointed that didn't come out. Yeah, well, great job. The next exemplary service citation will be presented by Lieutenant Jennifer Seeger. The recipient will be Detective Aaron Johnson.
This incident illustrates one of the many examples in which Detective Aaron Johnson played a critical role in criminal investigations that was completed to the highest standard. On October 13th at about 9 p.m., officers were dispatched to the 1700 block of Green Forest Run for an armed robbery incident. The victim was working late, delivering packages from a large delivery van. When the victim was walking back to his van, he was unexpectedly approached by a male wearing a mask. The male immediately pointed a firearm at the victim, demanding all his money and all the delivery packages. Immediately after, 2 other males approached the van, confronting the same victim. All 3 of the suspects went through the victim's wallet, stole the remaining packages from the van, and fled from the scene. The victim immediately called 911. Detective Aaron Johnson, who was a patrol officer at the time, working second shift patrol, volunteered to take the lead in processing the crime scene. She had reviewed the interior video surveillance of the delivery van and was able to identify different areas inside the van in which the suspects had possibly touched. She was able to photograph, dust, collect the palm and fingerprints of the suspects. These prints were later examined and confirmed by 2 other certified fingerprint examiners. Detective Aaron Johnson was also complimented on the exceptional quality of the lifted prints despite the difficult surface areas in which they were collected from. Her actions directly aided in the main suspect's arrest, which later led to several other arrests, a confession, and recovery of the initial firearm. Detective Johnson's skills in evidence processing, her crime scene knowledge went above and beyond the normal expectation and duties of a patrol officer. Those who receive this award can be described as excellent role models, serving the best of its kind, and high quality. This is Detective Aaron Johnson. Her talent, skills, and hard work is a direct reflection of her recent promotion to detective. May this award serve as a reminder of the vast appreciation we have for your performance, knowledge, and commitment to the Janesville Police Department and this community. Congratulations.
The next award is an exemplary service citation that will be presented by myself. The recipient is Sergeant Rob Perkins. I know he's here. He's an offensive lineman. He doesn't move very quick. At this time, I'd like to ask Sergeant Jimmy Holford also to come up as well. I'll present the exemplary service citation to Sergeant Perkins and the meritorious service citation jointly to Sergeant Holford and Sergeant Perkins as they work jointly in this investigation. Before doing so, and since we moved on to a secondary award, I'll also explain what that award consists of. A meritorious service citation, this award is given to any officer who performs an act of heroism or bravery which is laudable or extraordinary. This award will consist of a plaque and 2 colored section blue and white merit bar to be worn on the uniform. Factors to be considered include the act is performed with a high degree of risk of personal injury. The officer had full knowledge of the inherent danger existing and demonstrated unusual disregard for his or her personal safety. The officer's actions were beyond the normal hazards of duty. The officer's actions showed a high level of character and integrity. On Tuesday, April 26, 2022 at 4:32 p.m., officers were sent to precision drawn metals at 1345 Plainfield Avenue. The incident was called in as a man shot by another employee. The initial details led to 3 possible scenarios. The incident was a homicide, an active shooter, or both. Sergeant Perkins and Sergeant Holford in tandem utilized their training, experience, and leadership skills to confidently mitigate a life-threatening event in real time without hesitation. Their leadership, presence, actions, and decisions kept what could have been a chaotic situation calm for all the first responders responding to the incident scene and those who were traumatized by the events that unfolded in front of them. Sergeant Holford was the first to arrive on scene. He went directly to the incident location and began to approach, uncertain if this was an active shooter event. He stayed calm as he provided direction to responding officers. Several traumatized and scared workers from the business were leaving the building or frantically moving around inside or trying to give information to him. It was chaotic. Sergeant Holford made his way to a location within the building where workers were providing life-saving efforts on a victim who suffered life-threatening gunshot wounds. Sergeant Holford, with confidence and control under duress, displayed a great example of leadership and teamwork as he began assigning and coordinating resources to complete tasks. He mobilized resources within minutes, putting together teams of officers to begin clearing the business for threats and to escort a tactical emergency medical support team, commonly called TEMS, to the victim to provide the best possible chances for survival. He assigned an officer to work with the business's human resource staff to identify and locate all of the employees who would have been working at the time of the incident, and to provide an effort at safely gathering them in one location and begin taking statements. Sergeant Perkins was working from the Janesville Police Department command office. He became the hub of communications and oversaw the deployment of resources to precision drawn metals. He was competent in making decisions as he was assigning and coordinating tasks. His calm leadership methods kept others calm. Sergeant Perkins coordinated the deployment of resources to perimeter the area. This ensured containment and prevent innocent civilians from entering in what we call a warm zone. He showed attention to detail by documenting where and what resources were deployed. He provided updated information to the Investigations Division lieutenant, worked with the officers gathering information that led to the identification of the suspect. He researched information on the suspect and made sure the information was shared with other agencies in the surrounding area. These two sergeants' attention to detail, leadership, and rapid decision-making led to the identification of the suspect, his vehicle he left in prior to officer arrival, and his eventual apprehension. The time it took from the time that the call came in to the point of the suspect being taken into custody without incident was staggering. It took less than 45 minutes and a dangerous homicidal suspect was taken off the streets and was no longer a threat to society. These two individuals did not stop at the apprehension of this suspect. They made it a point to train our command staff through a presentation, an open discussion, and training. They also went forward with training some of our in-service. These two individuals are a great example of why Janesville is a safe community, and they represent supervision and the Janesville Police Department at the highest level. Thank you both for your dedication to service and excellence in performance of your duties. Congratulations. The next award we'll be giving out is the Distinguished Service Citation. This award is the highest a police officer can receive. The award is given to any officer who performs an act of heroism or bravery in the face of risking grave personal injury or death. The award will consist of a plaque and a 3-colored section blue, white, blue merit bar to be worn on the uniform. Factors to be considered include the officer's actions were responsible, intelligent, and necessary considering the circumstances. The officer was fully cognizant of the high degree of risk to his or her own life which would result from the actions taken. The officer's actions were beyond the normal hazards of duty, and the officer's actions exemplified the highest traditions of police service. Today's Distinguished Service Citation will be issued out by Lieutenant Jennifer Seeger, and as I had indicated earlier, the 2 recipients that we did not give the Citizens Awards to will also be called up.
When Chief Moore talks about our officers, specifically taking young men and women straight out of college, a few months out of field training, to most often perform the most difficult situations, this is exactly an example of that. Officer Nick Sargent was 7 months out of field training on his own on a second shift patrol officer when this incident happened. On October 19th, 2022, at 6:30 p.m., officers are dispatched to an address on North Osborne Avenue for a stabbing incident. The caller was visually impaired and was still inside the house with the suspect. The stabbing victim was somewhere outside. Officer Nicholas Sargent arrived within minutes and was the first officer on scene. He parked his squad car down the street as trained. Stanley was inside his own home when he heard a loud crash nearby. Stanley ran outside and approached a vehicle which was now sitting in the middle of the roadway. Stanley quickly noticed the female inside the vehicle was in distress. She had just told him she had been stabbed. Stanley flagged down another neighbor, Andrew Jensen, who arrived to help. Andrew removed his personal belt and applied it temporarily as a tourniquet to the victim's arm, which had a significant stab wound. As Officer Sargent was approaching on foot, he was flagged down by Stanley and Andrew. Officer Sargent utilized his tactical casualty care training and applied his tourniquet to the victim's arm. While doing this, he continued to talk to the victim to keep her awake as she was losing consciousness while also trying to assess her injuries. At the same time, Officer Sargent directed Stanley to help the visually impaired caller who had just stepped out of the house where the suspect was still located. Stanley was able to help the visually impaired caller to safety. Officer Sargent directed other arriving officers to provide cover from the suspect who was not in custody while he continued rendering aid. The scene was still unsafe, and the Janesville paramedics had staged down the street. Officer Nick Sargent made a quick, decisive decision. He wrapped his arms around the victim, removed her from the vehicle, and ran her to his squad car. After placing her in his squad car, he quickly drove her to the awaiting ambulance, where it was discovered she had several life-threatening stab wounds that were not immediately visible. After trying to gather some additional information about what had happened, Officer Sargent quickly went back to the incident location to assume a tactical role in the arrest of the suspect. Medical staff confirmed the quick actions and the teamwork of Officer Sergeant, Stanley, and Andrew directly contributed to the victim's survival. Today, she is a survivor, a pillar of great strength, an example of true courage. Her name is Cammie. Cammie is with us here tonight, and I welcome her and her mother, Michaela Breitzman, to the podium to say a couple words.
She said I was going to make her cry. She made me cry, so that was a little unfair. I understand Andy is sick, so he's not able to be here, but I wrote this to both of you, so I'll just say it as though he is here. Stan and Andy, in a day and age where kindness seems to have been forgotten and people don't look out for people like they used to, we want to say thank you. Thank you for not looking the other way. Thank you for not just standing by, but for swinging into action and doing what you could for Cammie while waiting for police and EMS to arrive. There is no doubt in my mind that those first few moments were vital to saving Cammie's life. Stan, in getting to know you, it is obvious that you are a gentle and caring soul, and our lives are better for having you in it. The world needs more of you. Andy is a teacher in our community, and he affects the lives of our younger generation daily. They're lucky to have him as a role model in their lives of what it means to set yourself and your own safety aside for the sake of someone else. Officer Sergeant, I don't even know where to begin. As I hear more and more details of that night, I am simply in awe of you and grateful beyond any words I could find. Your bravery, your attention, and your swift movements, they are all to be commended. You are an example to your fellow officers of what a difference all of that makes. Furthermore, I want to express my gratitude for how you interacted with our family. It wasn't until later that I realized that you and the officer that I spoke to at the hospital were one and the same. In that moment, I didn't know your name, but I do remember how you treated us and how you made us feel. I train child welfare social workers all over the state of Wisconsin, and I often use the phrase with them, people won't remember your name, but they will remember how you made them feel. And that stands true for you and all officers. You were gentle and compassionate, soft-spoken and empathetic. Everything that the world and the media says that officers are not. I will never forget that. To all of you officers present today, I know that none of you receive the thanks that you deserve. But I hope when you think about this situation and when you think of Officer Sergeant, that you take just a moment to recognize that what you do actually matters. In this instance, the actions of all of these men were the difference between recovering in the hospital or planning a funeral. And as a woman who has suffered more loss than most people my age, I don't think I would have survived the loss of a child. So when you get ready for shift and you put on your uniforms, when you say goodbye to your friends and loved ones, and as you walk out that door, do it with pride. Do it knowing that you have no idea what that shift holds for you. And do it knowing that your work matters. Even when the voices of society get loud, we're here to tell you that you matter. I thank God for all of you and for Cammie's life every single day. God knew what he was doing that day when you men were there. And thank you for giving me the gift of my daughter.
Unscripted and unplanned, I'm sorry. All yours. There are some folks that need to be thanked by me here tonight. Andrew could not be here because he's ill, and he is very, very, well, he's a hero. And I don't use that word lightly. There are heroes in this room tonight, and I want to personally thank every employee and member of the Janesville Police Department for the heroes that you are on an everyday basis and for what you do and for your service. So thank you for that. I want to thank my wife for helping me work through the trauma of that event. She witnessed it as well, and we helped each other quite a bit with the trauma that comes after something like that, that you can't imagine until you're in it. You don't really think, you just do. But there's some things that happened that night that could have changed things significantly had they not happened the way they did. And I'll only talk about one. And that one is that when I went out and I saw Cammie in the car, and I saw that she was bleeding profusely, I thought, I must tourniquet this arm. Now, I'm a retired guy and I do some side jobs, and I was painting that day. And I had pants on that were probably 4 inches too big, with a belt really tight to holding my pants up. And as God is my witness, the first thing I thought of when I saw her and I knew I had a tourniquet, I thought, if I take my belt off, my pants are going down. Honest truth. I looked around, there was nobody on the block yet. I could hear the sirens, and I was in a moral dilemma. Do I help this girl, or do I let my pants fall down? Just at that moment, Andy pulled up in his truck, who's my neighbor, and the first thing I said to him was, give me your belt, I've got to put a tourniquet on this arm. So Andy is a true hero that night for me not being probably cuffed by Nick when he got there, seeing a guy half in a car with his pants down. So Nick, another hero. Thank you very much for what you did that night. So Cammie and Michaela, you're the heroes. You are the heroes. That's all I can say. You're the heroes. Thank you.
Thank you again for that. It's greatly appreciated. It takes a lot of courage. Moving on to the next award, the Civilian Employee of the Year Award. To be eligible for this award, the recipient must be nominated by a fellow employee or any sworn member of the department, or would have received letters of commendation throughout the year. The civilian employee selected will then represent the department for 1 year and will be recognized as the Civilian Employee of the Year by those authorized community organizations granting such awards. A Civilian Employee of the Year award will be presented by Lieutenant Josh Norham, and the recipient is Carrie Kane.
Should actually have a monitor.
So, my name is Lieutenant Josh Norham. I'm the 3rd shift lieutenant. I'll try and not make Pearson nervous here by actually trying to stick to script and not making this as awkward as possible for Carrie. Yeah, I get to follow that last award. So, kids, the cookies are coming, we promise. Just bear with us a bit longer. But before I get into the citation here, I want to take a moment to recognize not only Carrie, but all of our civilian personnel that support us at the police department. They are truly valued members of the organization and integral to the day-to-day operations, supporting us all. So thank you all for what you do. Now on to Carrie. Carrie came to us recently, and she's been working with the police department since February 8th of 2021. She very quickly adapted to her position as a records clerk. She's a quick learner and a willing team player, able to take on varying responsibilities, sometimes without having to be asked. During the short time for working for the Janesville Police Department, she has shown her ability for typing volume. I mean, the sheer volume is painful some nights.
Because you have to read them.
Because I have to read them all, yes. But no, she does very well at her job. Her consistency and accuracy follows. She understands department operations and the associated paperwork flow. She often identifies inconsistencies in reports and paperwork early and brings it to my attention fairly regularly. Her knowledge and awareness increase our efficiency at the police department and reduces our supervision and oversight. As a dedicated team member, she has taken on additional assignments. She assists in arrest warrant entries into our NCIC system. She also participates in body-worn camera redactions, which is a daunting task. During critical incidents, she's quickly in a records management system, aiding the officers, providing them with investigative leads about suspects' whereabouts and real-time information to the officers, saving them valuable time so they can focus on the suspect apprehension. Carrie brings valued experiences, a personal energy, a solid work ethic, and a needed sense of humor to third shift, and especially with a shift full of youthful officers. Her performance and dedication is deeply appreciated and respected by the police department and the community. Carrie, congratulations.
The next award is the Award of Excellence. This award is given by the Chief of Police to one or two sworn or civilian supervisors each year whose service or performance has been noteworthy and a significant contribution made to the department and or the community. Chief Moore.
So, this is the first time we've had two recipients of the Award of Excellence. It's typically gone to one supervisor, one leader within the organization, and this year is different. This year the awards are going to Deputy Chief Kleisner and Deputy Chief Pearson, who you will learn very quickly I depend on a lot. Between the two of them, these supervisors, these leaders have 56 years of experience. Deputy Chief Kleisner has been with us for 31 years, and Deputy Chief Pearson has been with us for 25 years. These officers have worked every shift, every assignment. They've had many letters of appreciation, department awards, and have really rose through the ranks through very hard work. Their leadership has had a profound influence on our police department and our community. In September of last year, I was asked by the City Council to take over the duties of City Manager. I didn't anticipate that, I can tell you, and but the first discussion that I had was with these two gentlemen, and my question was, can we do this? Because if I'm going to be across the street at City Hall, I'm going to have to defer a lot of my responsibilities to these two gentlemen. And after some very short discussion, both of them says, yes, we can do that. These deputy chiefs have performed with distinction. They've accepted extra duties. They've guided our department through multiple retirements and hiring processes, a lot of hiring processes, a lot of retirements in the last few months. They have prepared our organization for our accreditation process. They finished out the budget year, which can be difficult to make those numbers work. And they have helped complete the union negotiations. And they still tolerated my involvement from time to time, which I deeply appreciate. Although I will tell you that occasionally I come back from City Hall back to the police department, and these guys got the feet up on the desk and eating popcorn. And that's all okay, but it's my desk they're doing it. Through this all, they maintain JPD's values and our standard of service for our community. These deputy chiefs are altruistic leaders providing for a better community, a better police department, a police department that is the envy of many. Gentlemen, congratulations. this is their favorite thing to do, is to put me in the middle.
I will openly admit, since I'm the holder of the Holy Grail book here, I didn't read that speech. I will throw out that I do respect seniority, and my senior officer directed me to that incident the chief caught us in his office with the popcorn and the chair thing. I take no responsibility for it. The final award, the Police Officer of the Year Award. To be eligible for this award, a sworn officer must have received a department commendation throughout the year and/or have been nominated for the award by another member of the department. The officer selected will represent the department for 1 year and will be recognized as the Officer of the Year by those authorized community organizations granting such awards. The Police Officer of the Year Award will be presented today by Sergeant Jimmy Holford, and the recipient will be Officer Jeremy Wiley.
That's my dad.
Yes, it is. In the year 2022, Officer Wiley was responsible for approximately 40 days of instruction in various topics, including high-risk vehicle stops, active shooter response, tactics, forcible entry, and firearms. This number does not account for the countless hours that he found within his normal work days to deliver instruction and coaching to the officers of the second shift. As the second shift range officer, Officer Wiley was responsible for the weapons qualifications of approximately 24 patrol officers and 4 supervisors. Accomplishing this task is generally time-consuming and requires the range officer to be assigned to the range and away from their patrol duties for a significant amount of time. Officer Wiley, through communication with supervision and sound decision-making, was able to accomplish this task with extreme efficiency, requiring him to only be specifically assigned to the range for 11 days during the year. He was able to accomplish this by finding downtime during regular working shifts to get required tasks accomplished. This ensured that officers were qualified with their firearms and minimized the effect on staffing. An often unrecognized aspect of the range assignment is the effort needed to issue, track, and maintain equipment as well as the range facility. Officer Wiley has been repeatedly commended by the supervisor of the range program for his significant contributions to these tasks. During 2022, second shift had 18 recruit officers participate in field training at various times on the shift, and Officer Wiley took it upon himself to ensure that all 18 of these officers were provided with multiple hours of instruction on how to utilize ballistic protective shields that are assigned to many of our patrol squads. This ensures that new officers have the competence and confidence in deploying this tool that significantly enhances their safety. Officer Wiley accomplished this by working with FTOs and working around their already busy training schedule to make sure that this important task was completed. He took this task on himself without the direction of supervision, and specifically due to his relentless care for the well-being of younger patrol officers. In August, the Janesville Police Department SWAT team had a unique opportunity to engage in destructive training at a decommissioned school in the city of Clinton, where members could practice skills necessary for forcing open locked doors. Officer Wiley organized 3 days of training at the facility, including vendors demonstrating various products for consideration of purchase and supplemental instruction provided by the Janesville Fire Department. Officer Wiley ensured that all required materials for the training were obtained and maximized the efficient use of this unique opportunity presented by the venue. As a result of the information learned at this training, the Janesville Police Department purchased a number of tools to be issued to patrol squads to assist with entering a building during an emergency situation.
Officer Wiley's dedication and competence in organizing and delivering SWAT in-service training was a significant factor in his appointment as an assistant team leader on the SWAT team. During the year, Officer Wiley became certified as an Alert Level 1 active shooter response instructor and Alert Solo Officer response to active shooter instructor. He utilized this training to improve the readiness of law enforcement not only in our community but in the region by teaching multiple sessions of the full 2-day course in the months of August, September, and October. He also assisted the Janesville Police Department with its own internal rapid response training. At the end of 2022, he was in the process of finalizing lesson plans for additional internal active shooter response training, which was successfully delivered and very highly complimented in January of 2023. In the spring, Officer Wiley assisted in delivering in-service training in high-risk vehicle stops. During this in-service, officers were trained in new tactics in approaching these dangerous situations using a methodology that is soon to be adopted by the State Law Enforcement Standards Board. This training ensured that JPD stays on the forefront of law enforcement best practices. At the end of 2022, Officer Wiley developed an additional training plan for department-wide in-service on firearms that was successfully delivered in the spring of 2023. In addition to formal training, Officer Wiley leverages his aptitude for coaching on a daily basis on the second shift in a number of ways. As younger officers have experienced difficulty in mastering the skill of interviews and interrogations, Officer Wiley has taken opportunities to sit with them and review body camera footage of interviews and utilize the video to highlight signs of deception and information that could trigger relevant follow-up questions to be asked, as well as other techniques that can be used to improve the information gathering process. Officer Wiley has also ridden with junior officers and helped to coach them on how to identify signs of criminal activity being taken place by the occupants of these vehicles. Field training officers on the second shift have recognized that Officer Wiley has skill at teaching the subject of control and arresting people in and around vehicles. FTOs commonly utilize Officer Wiley's knowledge in this area and ask him to recruit officers on techniques for most safely taking people into custody in and around vehicles in a way that limits the chances of foot pursuits or the use of force. With all that said, the saying, "those that can't do, teach," is absolutely false with Officer Wiley. In the spring of 2022, the city of Janesville was experiencing a rash of burglaries in the overnight hours. Officer Wiley obtained some information that some gift cards were taken during one of these crimes and that they had been used at a store in the city of Beloit. He took it upon himself to investigate the matter further, found video of the event, and was eventually able to identify a potential suspect. Later, covert surveillance was organized to try to catch one of these burglaries in the act, and based on the information developed by Officer Wiley, when one of these burglaries occurred, detectives and officers were able to be waiting for the suspect when he returned home from the crime. This resulted in the recovery of stolen property and the closure of multiple cases. Officer Wiley's self-initiated development of the suspect was key in ending this particular crime spree. Officer Wiley consistently provides senior leadership to the officers on second shift. In one example, officers were dispatched to a family disturbance where one subject had armed himself with a gun and threatened suicide. Officer Wiley took command of the scene, assigned responding officers to tasks such as interviews, traffic control, and then went on to form and lead a contact team to ensure that all the appropriate tools were assigned and deployed. He briefed them on the desired course of action and eventually led the team in safely taking the subject into custody without incident. His leadership directly contributed to a safe outcome for all parties involved. And with that, Officer Wiley is our Officer of the Year.
Okay, we'll wind things down here. On behalf of the Janesville Police Department, I'd like to offer our thanks to everyone joining us tonight. Special thanks to our spouses, our significant others, and family members. You're really the ones that help us to provide the service that we can. We ask a lot out of our officers, and I know it's tough, and having our spouses and family members there to help us through it is vitally important. During these awards, did you hear the theme, empathy and caring? I can't order these officers to provide that service. It comes from the heart and speaks to their character. An author by the name of Michael Josephson wrote on the topic of what will matter. I'd like to share a paragraph from his writing. So what will matter? How will the value of your days be measured? What will matter is not what you bought, but what you built. Not what you got, but what you gave. What will matter is not your success, but your significance. What will matter is not what you learned, but what you taught. What will matter is every act of integrity, compassion, courage, or sacrifice that enriched, empowered, or encouraged others to emulate your example. Living a life of matter doesn't come by accident. It's not a matter of circumstance, but a matter of choice. The people that have been commended here this evening have made that type of choice. Please take a moment to congratulate the award recipients and enjoy your time together here with family and friends and kids. You guys have been really great. There's cookies and juice and everything back there. Thanks, everybody, for joining us this evening.